Hello and welcome to the Property Lifestyle Mastery podcast. I am Jackie Tomes, and on this show we are having open and honest conversations about investing in property in a way that creates freedom, sharing the highs and the lows and the lessons along the way from having done over £18 million of deals, raised millions of pounds in finance, and had some real tough moments along the way. And so that has informed the topic for this week's conversation, which is freedom killers. So we're talking about the biggest saboteurs to creating and enjoying freedom through property. So it's myself and Dave that will be joining you this week. So we're going to be talking about systems, we're going to be talking about mindset, we're going to be talking about mistakes, and we're going to be talking about team. So delving into some really amazing areas here that you are going to love. So without further ado, let's do this.
Hello.
It's Jackie and Dave. Woo. In South Africa, looking at a nice golf course and feeling inspired today about an episode on freedom, but specifically the barriers to freedom. What are the blockers in the way of creating a property business that ultimately gives you freedom, or indeed other parts of your life as well. This episode is about what are the freedom killers that are holding you back. And I guess we've been reflecting on what this looks like for us in terms of the journey that we've been through, but I think what's cool about the perspective that we have is that it's not just our own. It's looking at everyone else, and we're very analytical and researchy about what are the themes that are blocking people. And that's what we're drawing on today, really, our own experience, but also what we are seeing in the people that we're mentoring. What are those themes that block them from freedom?
Well, I'd just add to that, obviously, that we've made freedom our prime goal for the last 10 years. It's just been a constant aim and adjustment and tweak and refine, try and get to that freedom. So we've ended up shifting so much from where we were 10 years ago to achieve the level of freedom we have now, which is one of the primary reasons, our mentees come to us actually, is because they want this level of freedom. And it's then looking back at what we've done as well and just saying, where did we diverge from what we see other people doing that got us to this place rather than a much more restricted place.
And also I think many of the mistakes that we see, and I say mistakes only because people are coming to us wanting to learn how to be free, and we've made mistakes that have sabotaged our freedom at various points, and we're here to kind of be that little guardian angel that goes, that isn't going to take you towards freedom. I know because I've done that and I really messed that one up. It didn't work. And then you kind of want to prevent people from going down that path. Not always possible, but at least you can give the wisdom and maybe get them there a little bit faster. Yeah. We've definitely messed that up real bad at various points.
100%.
So I'm wondering, we've got a list of ideas that we've had of things to talk about here before we go in. I'm just wondering, I think we should start with this one, thinking that money is ultimately going to equal freedom. Yeah. I think that's quite a nice place to start.
Simple entry point, right?
Yeah. So what have you learned there, Dave?
Biggest thing I've learned is that we gain freedom without the money that everyone seems to need. So we actually had our freedom. When I talk to people about their financial goals and the target and what is their passive income number and all of this, and everyone has their number, and it's normally between 5 and 10k a month. That seems to be the number, right?
Yes.
Very arbitrary number, but that's where people sit. And I've realized when looking at our growth and where we got to freedom from, that freedom came way before the 5k a month number, right?
A few grand a month.
Yeah, it was the ability to gain that freedom that you want without it being at all related to money. Obviously, there needs to be some money.
Yes.
And it needs to be coming in a source that you've got control over. So, i.e., not a job that you're doing for someone else, so that you can.
Arguably, you can get a lot of freedom in some jobs these days.
You can. That's true.
Anyway, that's.
But yeah, so if you're doing it the route we did, where it's you run your own business, you have full control over your time
and location,
and that means we got there much sooner. And actually, the biggest, I would say, success we did was we realized that quite early on. And we were making decisions that didn't necessarily make us more money, but that got us more freedom. It's just constantly making those little decisions. It's I could go and do that thing that's going to take me more time and effort and whatever else it's going to restrict me in, that will get me more money and get me towards my financial goal, but actually we chose not to do it because we're but then that's going to mean we're more stuck in this location, or we're going to have to work a bit harder. So we kept making choices around that.
I guess in some degrees, like the kind of route that, like, because I was the one that started getting us into property, and it was I was the driving force to start with, and the driving force behind like the saving for that first investment property. And my way of doing that was basically to go, I'm not going to buy clothes, I'm not going to get my hair done, I'm not going to get my nails done. I'm not even going to go out, I'm not even going to go drinking anymore. Like, I'm just going to like cut back everything to the very bare. I'm not even going to get the train to work. Like, I'm going to get a bike and I'm going to cycle from Greenwich or Woolwich to the centre of London as many days in the week as I can, because that is cheaper than my, like, whatever it was, £150, £200 a month or something travel card to get me in. Maybe it was a week, I can't remember. But like, I was like, that is, money is like all going to go into property. So that kind of like precursor to really getting into property and getting the first one, like, I was just living such a frugal life and everything was being saved. So in a way, I'd put freedom above all else, because I'm willing to sacrifice everything. I'm willing to sacrifice holidays, gym memberships, going to friends' weddings. Like, I'm willing to sacrifice everything to save up the money to buy the first property, because freedom is the most important thing. So almost like that, like, lifestyle baseline, I just cut way back. And before that, I was having a great time. I was going out for dinner, I was getting my hair done, I was having a great time out in London.
Those things are normal things, Jax. That wasn't having a great time. Having dinner, doing your hair, nails done, you've just covered normal life.
Normal life was great. But I wasn't free. I was living a great normal life where I had to ask for permission to go on holiday, and if I was sick, I felt bad to take time off work, and I had to be in central London. And so I guess what I'm saying is that precursor and being really frugal as the baseline actually set up things really well, because I think so often we see people who are obviously spending much more than I was spending at that point before I started being frugal, but it's almost like I'm not willing to make any lifestyle sacrifices to get the passive income going much quicker, to get to freedom quicker. Basically, at the moment, I'm earning 10 grand a month, and I'm not willing to live on any less than that. And I think often people think, I can't live on any less than that. Look at the expense, and they just, well, I physically can't. But actually, it depends what's important to you.
So true. It's not, and actually that really comes back to what you consider to be your life overheads, and doing some really good detailed analysis of that. Because you're right, like, when you actually look at everything you spend in your life, you are making a choice on every single item there. And I think that stuck mindset of just blinkered thinking of like, but I need that, but I need that, but I need that, but I need that. You've lied. You've lied to yourself. Every single line item. You literally do not need any of those things in truth, but you make a choice. You are choosing to prioritize having those things, and that pretty much sums up that's going to hold you back, right? That's a stuckness, a point where you're going to kill a freedom killer.
It's a freedom killer.
It's a freedom killer. And then it's not just the current lifestyle things as well, because I think that those life overheads are where your starting point are, but also where your vision is going. And you keep making choices. As you grow, as your business grows, you're going to keep making choices that lead down the path. And I think that probably leads us on to another topic.
You go number 2 or number 1?
I want to go to this, which is within number 3. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so number 3 on our list.
Oh, what is it?
So I'm actually going to come from the sub-point, because I think what we see a lot in people is that we go to that list of life costs, and then as business grows and as you do things, you have this sense of, I've worked really hard, I deserve this result, I deserve to have that thing, and really that thing that I'm aiming towards is going to be the thing that deems me to be successful. It's the thing that will make me feel like I've been successful and all the work's been worthwhile. So in the said person...
Case in point, like an example.
Give a case in point.
I have worked really hard, I've done all this risk, I've created a business, I deserve to drive a nice car.
A super nice
car that I drive up and people know. And also I feel good, like I feel good. Maybe that's the subconscious part. Like, subconsciously you're like, people will know that I'm important because I have this really nice car and I've done well. That's generally not the reason that people give. The reason is, well, I've worked really hard and, I love the smell of the leather when I get into it or whatever, and I deserve it. So that would be an example.
And the thing is, you do deserve it, right?
Yes.
It's just a choice.
Yep.
It's a choice. And I think car is one. And, you know, that can easily, an expensive car can either be one massive outlay or probably somewhere between £1,000 and £3,000 a month overhead. And then similarly, you could have the same thing about the dream house. The dream house, you know, I've seen that a lot.
Massive
Heck of a
freedom
lot.
killer.
It's just you get to the point where you're like, well, I've done all this work and it's time. It is time for me to have the house that is going to be my forever home. And therefore, I'm willing to make now all prioritization around making sure I can get that mortgage, and I'm going to throw everything into the house, which is a choice. And there's no problem with that choice.
No problem with that. But I also think there's like you're right, it's a choice to say, buying this expensive house and overextending myself probably financially from where I really can do it, is if you're sitting there saying that really freedom is the most important thing to me, while simultaneously overextending yourself to get a massive house, there's a real dichotomy there.
Yeah, they don't mix.
Yeah.
You basically are going to kill your freedom at that point in time, until such time in the future that you've built up enough cash flow to make the house payments and all the cost of it a small enough thing to no longer be a freedom killer for you. So it's just all these little choices we make going forwards, and I think a lot of those are driven by a form of kind of this like ego side of you just saying, I deserve this, I want to have that status symbol, this is what people deem as success. And I mean, Jackie and I don't have a house. We live in amazing places, but we decided to reduce that overhead in life, to really control that cost and prioritize freedom over the dream home. And we've talked about the dream home.
The dream home is still happening. Actually, multiple dream homes are happening. And we're actually talking about one right now that we kind of like, actually, we would like to start prioritizing that over the next few years. But the me of the past would have been wrangling a lot more with like, oh, we've had the idea. This is what I see in our people that we work with. I've had the idea for this, so therefore I have to act on it now. It's kind of like this impatience to just go straight away, and I felt that in myself when we're talking about this dream house that we are starting to like bring forth in our minds. And me 7 years ago, or maybe even more recently, would have gone, right, great, let's start planning, like how are we going to do it, and like really pushing forwards on it. And now I'm like, you know what, no, like I want to do that, but just allow it to happen, and there is no rush for it to happen. Like if it happens in a year or 3 years or 5 years, that's all very close time frames. And I want the freedom to be there above all else. So you just keep prioritizing it.
So there's the balance here, I think, between rewarding yourself in the short to medium term in a way that isn't going to kill your freedom, in ways that make sense, alongside the delayed gratification of the long-term goal. And I think delayed gratification, you can get impatient with that, right? And it's not about delaying it forever. It's about having the vision, making the plan, and then not doing it until it's not going to kill your freedom. That's it, right? And in the meantime, you can do loads of other things that are much, much less overhead, and that actually can give you just as much gratification in their own way, but won't kill the freedom.
But I think and this is like not on the list of points, but I just sitting here, I was talking about it, it's made me realise, if you're making your work life miserable in how you're approaching it, I think it makes you want this other stuff sooner. So, and maybe we touched on this today or another day, but it's like, this is how I used to approach work. It was very high stress in terms of the pressure I was putting on myself, the outcomes that I wanted from it, and it made it like exhausting and just feel like a bit of a slog. And so therefore it kind of makes you like, well, I do deserve more money from this because it's really hard. But actually, it doesn't have to be really hard. Like, it doesn't have to be so focused on the outcome. Like, and this is what Dom has taught us, like being much more like present and here in the moment and just like enjoying the journey that you're on, including the work. It means the work is more lighter and enjoyable, and therefore you don't need the stuff to make you feel okay about the toil you're putting yourself through. And by doing that, I think there is also this kind of like letting go of the outcome of what you're looking for. And so therefore, like for us then going, let's start to plan for that house that we really want to buy. The old me was like, I need to get the house as quickly as possible because that will be really amazing to have that. But the new me is like, no, let's enjoy the journey to like finding the place, finding the house, planning the design. And like, that's just as enjoyable as the having of the thing in the end.
Yeah. Well, I think that brings us nicely onto what I would call the primary point that is underlying all of this. And I have talked about this on another podcast as one of my biggest learnings. So, and I think it's so relevant here. So I would like to hear your viewpoints on it, Jax, because everyone can hear my viewpoints.
We've heard quite enough of your viewpoints.
But it is basically the choice to prioritise based on these very subconscious emotional drivers. And I think everyone who has these prioritization decision makings where it's a choice to kill your freedom for something like that, they wouldn't say there's not a rational reason for it. Most people would say come up with a great reason for it and wouldn't be fully aware of the driver underneath. But in the end, there is a clear hidden agenda of the subconscious that is driving you down that path because it feels better somehow in your mind.
Or like the only route.
Or the only route, right.
Yeah.
So you kind of railroad yourself down that road. So I guess when it comes to these subconscious emotional drivers, we've covered one there, which is a bit of an ego one, like what's the status symbol, and also the ego of driving. You must have that thing because you deserve it, and that's a very ego-driven one as well, rather than just sitting back and enjoying the journey. What other ways would you describe this, Jax?
I guess for me, there's been this very strong like people-pleasing subconscious driver that I thought was really like being kind of like kind and caring in like what's going on in the people's lives who are like close to me, and like are they okay, and if they're not okay, what can I do to make sure that they are okay, because I want them to be happy, which seems like a very nice driver, but I think subconsciously the driver was for me like, if they aren't happy, I don't deserve to be happy. And therefore that means you end up prioritizing other people's happiness, which probably in a large part for me was like there were financial decisions that I would make around what I could do financially to help other people who were close to me in order to make them happy. I wouldn't have used that like rationalization at the time, but I can see that now with hindsight. And so therefore that decision making would kind of hold me at a place to take certain actions to keep them happy, rather than go, actually, I'm actually not, I can't control other people's happiness. Like I can only control my own happiness, and therefore that would kind of mean that I'd make decisions that would hold me stuck and to ransom, I suppose, to other people, but I was doing it to myself. I don't know how to explain that very well.
I think you have, and I think just to make it super clear here, the people pleasing is the point, right?
Yep.
It's when you're taking action that is designed just to please other people over and above your own happiness and whatever
and freedom.
it is, and freedom in this case, what you're trying to aim for. And that it's not, I think a lot of people are like, but those who are people pleasers would automatically be like, but if I try not to please other people, then surely I'm just going to do things that are mean, right? It's almost like if you're not people pleasing, then you're clearly being mean and
you're clearly an arsehole, basically.
An arsehole,
yeah.
Right? Great. So, but that's not what it is, right? You can be lovely to people. You can give them everything that you can give them in terms of your time, support, love, money if it makes sense. But it's got to be within the remit of what makes sense and not what is being done to create the reaction of them being pleased with you.
Yes.
Right?
Because ultimately, by trying to do that, you're trying to control others.
Yes.
Which
control their reactions
because you're basically making your freedom and happiness conditional on their happiness, contentment, and I think that it's been an interesting journey for me, seeing how at some points I felt like I've been doing really nice things, in my opinion, to like be nice and supportive and kind to others, and like the reaction that I've got back is not been nice, and it's almost like I've been mean and unkind when I was like really trying so hard to do the opposite. And it was a very painful lesson to learn, but a lesson in that I can't control that. And as horrible as some of those lessons were to learn in the moment, it was like necessary for me to learn it, because at the time I couldn't see how I was boxing myself in with those nice things that I was doing for others, which meant that I didn't choose to do other things, or I didn't prioritize myself and my own personal well-being, mental freedom, emotional well-being, whatever it may be. and give that power instead to others, and if they were happy, and then you realise that you can't do that anyway, was actually really good, because in that horribleness being thrown at you in those moments, you kind of realise this is the test. Like, if I can find my like peace and my freedom in this moment with this like judgment and meanness coming at me, that is actually what freedom is.
That's a form of, what we call emotional freedom, right? That's the moment you gain your emotional freedom. And I guess it's just that's a really hard thing to do.
Yes.
It's a very difficult thing to do. And the people pleasing really becomes a massive restrictor on you if you don't become aware of this.
Yes. I think, can I give another example, more business related?
Do it.
So like, projects don't always go to plan. Sometimes timeframes overrun, sometimes budgets overrun, and you're working with investors and you really want to please them. Like, you want to do a good job for your investors. You want to like pay them back their money early, pay them back the interest, and then just to be like, oh, you've done a wonderful job, let's invest together again. Like, that's what we're all kind of like hoping is going to happen. But then timeframes overrun, more money's required, and actually your investors aren't going to be pleased when that happens, because they want to ultimately it to go to plan, because that's the expectation that they've got. But just finding a way to kind of, I guess, confront that in a kind way, to like build good relationships with your investors and be okay with saying, look, I know we'd agreed that this was the time frame, but things haven't gotten to plan, so we're going to have to push the time frame back a few months, and I know that might be an inconvenience to you. Anything I can do to make that a bit easy on you, and like working together on it, but knowing really they're still maybe going to be a bit miffed with you that you've not done what they wanted you to do, and being okay with that. And I think other things happen in this situation based on let's keep it with people pleasing for now. So you said you've got a 1-year loan term for your investors. The project's overrun by a month, so you need to go and ask for a month extension on the loan, really. I know people who will not do that and will go, I've got to give them money back in a year from now. I can't possibly like let that person down by saying I need a bit of an extension, by having a conversation, because that hurts me too much that I have failed and I won't be pleasing them. So let me go and scrape together all the money that I possibly can to pay that investor's loan back on time to keep them happy. And then something else happens with the project and you don't have any reserves anymore to pay that, so you end up in a really horrible situation. So then you're putting maybe the refurb going on a credit card or other things, and you just get yourself into such a sticky situation when all you had to do was go, look, I'm really sorry that this isn't what you wanted, but I'm going to have to extend it, and I know that's not what you want, but that's what I've got to do, and I'll just keep you updated as much as I can, but that's just kind of where the project's at. Like, people don't do that, or there's the avoider mentality of like, let's not even talk to the investors, let's not even tell them what's going on, because maybe if I don't talk to them, they won't really realise what's happening. In the meantime, your investors are getting really annoyed because you're not communicating with them, and that is actually so much worse than just going, look, I'm really sorry, it's really messed up. Yes, it was a year, but actually planning's happened, refinances, banks screwed me over, this is property, like, we're going to have to extend the loan, and just working together on that. And investors prefer that. Oh. But the people pleasing sabotages so much investor relationships.
Yeah, I would say when I've noticed with investors is that obviously you're going to come across the very occasional tough cookie who, if what you've just described happens, they will just be blacklist you. You know, there's going to be no, never again. I'm never working with you ever again. This is unacceptable that you had to extend the loan by 2 to 3 months. Yep. You know, I can't work with that. And that's fine. And might even make your life a bit miserable in the meantime. Okay, but I would say that's a very small percentage. And
also, if you're aware that could be the case, you choose your investors like wisely, by people who share your values of like wanting to support each other, because that to me sounds like a bad values match of an investor. That's
what you've learned. At the point that happens, you suddenly learn, I don't want to work with that person anymore. And actually, if someone's going to be that harsh when things out of my control have happened, and they're going to treat me like that, then great. I'm really glad they don't want to invest with me again, because I don't want to work with them again. Because to be honest with you, life does not go to plan. Things do not happen according to plan all the time. And yes, 90% of the time you will always get loans repaid in time, but there is a 10% where things do not happen to plan, and that's completely out of your control. And you want to work with people who understand that, who, when you communicate them the issues you've encountered and you explain everything and you communicate well and you give them a clear exit plan B of where we're at and where we're aiming for, they treat you with understanding, support and kindness. And they say, okay, that's really fine, don't worry, I don't need the money for a couple more months. Or they say, look, the problem is I know you've got 100k loan with you, but I really needed 30k of it back because of ABC reason, and maybe we can work together to try and get 30k back. Whatever the conversation follows, but you're looking at working together on it as a supporting mechanism, and no one's being harsh and nasty and mean.
There's a whole other podcast episode in that, probably, actually. But
anyway, so I think we found that with our investors, we've built them based on values matches, and we've found lovely people who we love to work with. And when things don't go to plan, they're so open with us and so okay with, it's not the easiest conversation to have, to say, this is not how we discussed it originally, but with the right person, that's actually a very easy conversation in the grand scheme of things, and it's definitely better than, like you're right, than avoidance.
Yes, than avoidance, because at least, and I think the avoidance happens because the person doesn't want to have those conversations because they know that they're failing, and so therefore you shy away from it, because if you don't look at it, it's almost like it's not happening, but it is happening. And if you just were open and could stare that I've displeased someone in the face and be okay with it, you can actually have tough projects that don't go to plan and it not destroy your life in the meantime. Because that's the problem. We've been there in the past, and we're seeing mentees that we know going through it at the moment where stuff isn't going to plan, and the self-judgment and loathing that goes on with it. Basically, you feel like the least free person at that time, because you're like, well, I'm messing up so much that I almost have to punish myself along the way. So yes, people pleasing.
And just to clarify, so people pleasing comes from the underlying subconscious driver of fear, primarily. Yes. You're scared of someone else's reaction, so you therefore scared of a negative reaction. You're scared of the unknown, of how they're going to respond, if they're going to respond and say, if you don't please them, what are they going to do to you almost? And also you're scared of failure as well, because as soon as you confront that and tell someone it hasn't worked and you haven't given their money back, you've now failed, and it's a fear of failure. And if you can keep your head covered and just give them their money back and just find another path, then you haven't failed officially. So it's very much a fear-based driver that's hiding there. And honestly, every time you're making decisions based on fear, they're not good decisions. Full stop. Decisions from fear are bad. Remember that, if anything, from this.
So true.
You need to, Anyway, let's move on.
So let's go to the next one down, which kind of follows a similar line, I guess, really. But this idea of following cultural norms.
We've broken all cultural norms.
And a lot of people don't like it. But we're okay because we're letting go.
Always letting
people
go.
Pleasing.
Yeah. I mean, it is true that, from our perspective, we've followed freedom rather than norm. And you can see we live a completely abnormal life because of it. But it's an awesome life. And it's a life that I can't tell you how many people have said, I wish you're living my dream. I wish I could have that. And then how often I say things like, well, you could have that actually, if we just did ABC in your life and changed this.
And they're like, oh no, I couldn't because.
And so often the because comes from cultural norms. The standard life you're supposed to live according to society, which is, you've got your house, you buy your house, you have a nice house in in the city, and you have kids.
Your kids go to private school because you're doing well.
Yes, and then you definitely send your kids to private school because that's much better than the standard schools in the area. And it's just these kind of set restrictions that people just won't actually even consider alternatives.
And it boxes you in. But I think when you start to be, because really that happens because if you don't own a house, you go to the family barbecue and Auntie Deirdre is like, is it not a bit risky that you don't have a house? Like, where are your kids going to grow up? You can't have your kids growing up in rented accommodation. Like, you can't travel around all the time because your kids need to be stable. Like, these are the things you should be doing. And it is, I think it is the chatter, right? That's what social norms are. It's like what the tribe, your tribe thinks is acceptable for you to do, and if you don't do it, it freaks people out. So they're doing it, they're coming from a place of fear because they're like, gosh, if that person isn't doing that, I'm worried about them.
And they'll come up with as many different reasons that that's bad. Like they'll come up with all the scare tactics of what does that mean for you if you're traveling and your kids aren't stable. They'll come up with so many different rationalizations which are just coming from their own norm, right, of what they think. But there are so many cultures that travel, and there's so many, for example, if we come to kids, which we don't have, but we've talked about it a lot, and I've seen it from other people, the concept of homeschooling is an option on the table for us, right? It's 100% on the table because if we wanted to have kids and wanted to carry on traveling, it might be the only way. And I've looked at it as seeing other people who homeschool and seeing their children and gone, that is amazing. Like the way they're bringing their kids up is just incredible. And I've also had colleagues in my previous careers where they've been homeschooled and they've been great people, absolutely brilliant, totally stellar, and like totally capable and really fantastic in their career, homeschooled. I mean, it didn't make a difference to their career. No problem. I remember growing up with a violinist who basically, not grow up, I worked with a violinist who grew up on a boat, travelling the world, homeschooled. And he was fantastic, lovely guy. And he was very successful in his career. And I guess that brings me to the schooling.
Yes.
I mean, you and I, Jackie, we went to the local standard school, right?
Yeah.
Right? We didn't get this privilege of the private school upbringing.
We didn't.
And I guess that does make a difference to our opinions of private school, right?
Yeah, I guess we were from an area where there were good state schools, and I do accept that that's not necessarily the case in all areas. So that is a slight caveat to this. But yeah, having realised that there was good stuff about it, but there was challenges about it, but also the challenges are part of what makes you anyway. And like, there's so many perspectives on what makes a well-rounded human. Like, is it definitely worth? Because I see so many people whose kids are in private school, but so stressed out by money, and I'm like, I wouldn't want to be in that situation from a freedom perspective in this conversation.
Everything is a balance, and we're talking about freedom, and I have to say, the cost of private school is often a freedom killer.
Yes.
And the decision to prioritise that for the child from two people who came through the state school system and have been very successful out of it and don't look back in any way and think that we are missing anything. I guess it's always a bit mind-boggling to see someone else putting themselves through that freedom killer and really struggling financially to put their kids through a private school when I'm sitting there thinking, but it's... I mean, is it worth it?
Yeah.
Is it worth this pain you're going through?
But then I guess it comes back to like, what are the most important things? And I think we can only really have like 3 most important things, like 3 to 5 most important things. In this life, these are the things that I'm prioritising as the most important. And if your kid's education is number 1, then let go of travelling around maybe in a motorhome. Like maybe that isn't the best overall way. That's all perspective anyway, isn't it? But like, what are the most important things? And if freedom is like number 6 on your list, it's not the most important thing. And that's okay. Like, it's not like it's the way to live life. It's just a way to live life that you have to make loads of choices on. And I've read/listened to the book 4,000 Weeks recently. I was going to say 5,000 weeks. I think I choose 5,000 weeks. Living longer. And that is basically about the fact that you are going to miss out on pretty much everything in life. Like, you can't do most of it. You're not going to see most of the world. 99% of the world you're not going to see. You're not going to meet most of the people. You're not going to, whatever. So therefore you got to go, that slice of life is the thing that I really want to go for. And that's what I think is important to me. And so if it is genuinely freedom and you're getting caught up on some of these other things, then it's about going, okay, what are these cultural norms that I'm so worried about what Aunt Deirdre thinks, that I'm hanging on to this £2 million house with this massive mortgage payment and this pretty car, that actually I could just let go of all of it, except that Auntie Deirdre's going to be hacked off and be bitching about me behind my back. Or your parents, yeah.
Or your brothers, sisters, siblings. Like, it could be very close people to you, or your old friend group, just, looking at you with judgment, saying, oh, you don't have the house anymore. We're already successful in London.
And what are you doing? You're just like backpacking around Thailand, or Asia, anything about your future.
Simple fact is, it can be people who have a lot of sway over you, right? A lot of people who you feel their opinion really matters to you, and that it's just becoming aware of that and what norms are those people kind of forcing on you just through...
Are you forcing on yourself?
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
Through listening to them and through, well, wanting to live up to what they think.
Yeah. And I think, so one of the other books that I've just finished reading recently is called The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. And that was just like, that's part of it. Like, I can't control how Aunt Deirdre reacts to the fact that I want to sell all my possessions and just backpack around Asia for 2 years. Like, I can't control her reaction. She might be unhappy with me. She might bitch about me behind my back. But that's on her. Like, that's her choice to do that. And I'm going to let her do that. And I'm going to focus on still, do my best to just love her and accept her how she is, but choose the relationship that I want to have with that person based on the life that I'm living. Because you're not living Aunt Deirdre's life. You're living your life. God, it's complex shit, isn't it?
I think one of the things that's made us so successful at getting to freedom has been because we are black sheep. we don't like to follow the fold. And actually, whenever we've had an an inspiration of something that is abnormal, we've actually followed it with gusto. We're like, that sounds awesome. That's awesome. Let's go be even more different.
Let's be even weirder.
Even weirder. People are that's crazy. Let's do it. But I think that kind of excitement to be different and be something that isn't what other people accept as normal has really helped us. And I mean, you don't need that, but I think that's what's helped us to get there very fast.
Yes.
Because we've so often embraced an idea that other people would go, oh no, I can't do that. Oh no, I'm not sure about that. And their brain and body would push them to a different idea.
We just don't allow ourselves to say, I can't do that because...
No, it's
just
always...
not in our vocabulary.
So often you say the idea and I go, ooh, how could that work? Yeah. That's the question.
You didn't used to be like that. I think before it used to be like,
Not sure.
What about what this? And you weren't doing it from like let's not do it, but you like immediately went to like what's the problem that we should resolve, and you kind of focus more on that aspect.
Yeah.
Which I think you still would do that, but it wouldn't be the first thing that your brain goes to now. Like I think you've rewired that pattern of thinking.
You're right.
Which is nice. I love that, by the way.
So you're right. So the old me would see the problems immediately, and it's like someone says something, you're confronted by all the barriers. But I'm a problem solver by nature, so I was thankfully the type of person would then go immediately into problem solving and say, right, okay, how do I get past these barriers? But they are literally like a wall in front of me, a wall of barriers before, and I wouldn't allow myself to see the end result. And I have rewired that. So the first thing I see when you come up with an inspiring idea, usually it's you, is I just immediately see the bigger perspective of, that's how it would look. So how could that work? And then I start looking for what are the little blockages, but now they're little blockages. They're no longer this big wall of barriers. It's just tiny blockages to be, and it's the same thing, but I've gotten so used to the fact that we'll always find a way that my whole perspective's changed.
Yeah, it's really fun.
It's cool.
And I feel like the most recent big idea might have actually been your idea.
Yeah, great.
I think you might have said it first.
Yes.
Oh God, what's going to happen now? Therefore, I guess we've just... it's been really hard at points, I think, that decision to just follow our own way, and it's forced us to confront some, maybe me more than you, just some really dark parts of myself that hold me back. I mean, I still do it, but it makes it very tough along the way. But I'm seeing that more and more of like, this is just like what I've got to go through to let go of those past habitual reactions to things, to be able to just live the path that feels ultimately right for me.
Great. So a couple of other things just while we're at the end of here. I think a massive freedom killer for those earlier on in business building is the grass is greener mentality.
Oh yeah, shiny penny. The
shiny penny, and we talk about it a lot, but really the for us, freedom came from creating something that could replicate and we could step back from. And we needed to be able to step back from it sooner and to be able to have team easily come in to run it for us so that we weren't held by it, like create a new job. And we also needed it to be simple enough so that you didn't need too many team members. It wasn't too costly to get it running without you. And so we needed it to be, well niched, efficient. And I guess as soon as you have a grass is greener mentality, you will take something that could easily be your freedom gainer and then move across to a new idea that is now your freedom killer. So, and we've seen that happen even with the
last
mentees.
couple of weeks.
You'll have someone who's got something going really well.
There's problems with it, of course.
Always a problem.
But there's problems with everything.
Yeah.
Like, we're not looking for the problem-free business, because that doesn't exist.
And then instead of just refining those problems and finding a way to use all the systems that are already starting to be made and moving to something similar but that evolves past the problems, the decision is, oh, there's a completely different thing here that I should consider and go towards instead, because that's clearly going to be much better. And that's never the case.
No, if that is your most important thing, is like to try out building loads of new businesses. Like, I just enjoy working loads, having loads of different businesses, balls dropping all over the place and just solving it. If you're like, I love that, that's what I want for my life, do it. But if you are saying, you know what, I want to work a few days a week, I want to come and enjoy what I'm doing, I want to be able to switch off, I want to have long weekends, I want to have plenty of holidays, that decision is not going to get you there quick.
It's a freedom killer decision.
It's a freedom killer. So like that, and it partly comes from boredom, I think, sometimes, or wanting to thinking that there's an easier road than you've chosen. And I guess that's what I do feel very privileged to see behind the scenes of a lot of very successful people's businesses. There is no.
And honestly, we've also been behind the scenes of our own business for 10 years, and we've been through several different business models, but also a consultancy and training business, and also running a finance business. Like, we've done different types of business, and you can see with them all, they all have the same problems.
Yeah, just different flavours.
Different flavours. And you've got to make your decisions about the flavour you like and that you're going to just stick with. But no flavour will be effortless. No flavour will be just without trials and tribulations and without the downs as well as the ups. It's just how it is. That's called being a business owner.
That's just called life.
Life.
Right? Like, no matter, even if we're not talking about you running a business here, it's like, actually, I'm very happy working in a job for someone else. Like, there is nothing wrong with that. And I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, like, we kind of look down a bit on people who are employed. No, if they are happy with that, please do that, because it is like a lot less stress. You get paid the same every month. Like, you're not responsible for like paying on to other people. Like, it of course has its upsides. You've got to find the job that you love, but there's no perfect job either. Like, if we're always looking for the thing that we need, like, I'm reading a book called, what's all about books today?
All about books, keep it up.
Pema Chodron, is that how you say her name?
Pema Chodron.
I can't remember the exact name of the book, but just, she's Buddhist teachings, and just like this idea that everything is how it's meant to be. Like, we can't be just like trying to push away pain and reach for pleasure all the time. Like, this is it, this moment, this is life. Just embrace it and experience it without thinking that the right life is not where you currently are.
Yeah, in that respect, I guess we so focus on the pain points, and then we shy away from them, and then we push away from them, and then we try and find another path that has no pain points or less. But you're right, in the end, all paths have pain points, and that's part of the journey. And for me, the biggest freedom killer in business is chopping and changing. The only way you can get to the true freedom at the end is by sticking to one path and working through those pain points and slowly finding ways to alleviate them and massage your way around them. And it's just a process, right? And we've got many less pain points than we had before, but only because we've worked on them and worked through them.
But also, like, there are, and actually many more pain points. There's so many pain points. They're just not bothering me as much. Yes. I'm like, we've got a podcast that we're probably going to do about, we've been harassed recently by a tenant to the point of having to report him to the police. That would have dragged me down so much and ruined life. But now I'm like, being harassed by a tenant, like, that's just like another part of life. And as long as it's not destroying my round of golf or my experience here in South Africa, that's what matters most. So if freedom is the most important thing, keep that front and centre. And if you hear yourself rationalising why you can't have freedom because of X, Y, and Z reason, just start writing down those reasons and see if you can take a different perspective on that reason, because there's so many different ways you can look at it, and really it's your perspective on those things that's holding you where you are, not life doing it to you. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode of the Property Lifestyle Mastery podcast. If you want to find out more about us and how you can work with us, check out property-strategy.com, where there's information on all of the programs that we offer to support investors when it comes to raising finance, doing deals, and ultimately investing in property in a way that creates freedom. I'll put the link in the show notes to our website as well. This time next week, we'll be back talking about how to get out of your head and into action. So Dom is going to be talking about a topic that he is really passionate about, which is journaling, and using that as an approach to stay focused and help you to make decisions. So an awesome episode coming up for you next week. So in the meantime, here is to creating freedom and avoiding those killers along the way. Bye for now.